already.
Man of Steel. Hey,
I
I love
enjoyed that flick, man. I don't care. I
it.
enjoyed it.
It is to me a really good take on Superman, and we're live and we're already talking about stuff.
Yes,
Welcome Thursday. It is November, first of all, which is absolutely
it's
crazy.
weird.
It is
Yeah,
crazy, and I got a couple things to say as people are coming into the chat. First
same.
of all, last week my mic sounded like hot garbage and no one in chat told me. So we need to make sure this week, if you think my mic sounds terrible, to let me know so I could fix it.
Maybe they just appreciate you too much. They
That's
don't want to
right.
hurt your feelings.
They were like, the content of what he's saying
Hmm.
is so good. I don't even care how it sounds.
Right.
Trying to connect AirPods to the computer. I haven't had a lot of luck with that in my own personal experience. I have not. Well, it is Thursday. It is November. This year is completely flying by, and we have a lot of, I would say, bigger stuff coming as far as announcements. So we had some big ones this week, some
Yeah.
big ones coming next week. We're going to talk about, but it is really flown by. October, I mean, it was a blink, wasn't it? It was just crazy.
You know what makes it fly by faster? Like in anticipation of new Star Wars thing or anything that you're into, right? Whether
That's
it's
true.
DC Comics or next TV show that you're into, like, oh my God, what is this gonna show up? Like time really flies.
I'll tell you, for me, you're right, we had a hot streak because we had Dune, and the week before
Right.
we had Fandom. So
Right.
I got like new DC content and then new,
Hmm.
movies, and then we got Star Wars trailers this week, and we expect more official Star Wars announcements next week.
Yeah.
So you're right. When there's something that is like a milestone every week, it does break up kind of the lull.
And I think this year was probably one of the biggest ones in terms of content of the
Yeah.
comic books. There's so many of them. I just like put a count on it versus in 2015 I was still collecting physical comic books, right, from
Right.
Marvel. 2016, 17 I think where I kind of stopped and I just compared my shows. I'm like, hold on a second. It's like there's so many now. Yes, you have few of the mainline comics, but there's so many offshoots and spin-offs. Like, oh my God.
Well,
It's like barraging us with content.
Well, the other thing too, it's so weird to me. Comics is in a weird space, and for a lot of my fans and your fans as well, I know they probably partake in some Star Wars
Hmm.
comics, right? It seems to be in such a tough spot for the industry because so many people are not going and buying physical comics anymore.
Yeah.
And I use Comixology a lot. Now, you can't probably tell on my shelf, but I do also have the High Republic ones in physical because I do like to
Yeah.
support the kind of the art form still of comics, but it's just a changing industry. It is
Yeah.
just a changing industry.
Josh,
And
let's very
yeah, go ahead.
quickly. Sorry, let's compare notes here very very briefly
Yeah.
because so when I used to work and manage a comic book store right here in New York City, it was like a regular Papa Mama shop,
Yeah.
and the whole digital plus physical comic thing started. Right, when you buy a physical copy of the comic, you get the digital code for it that
Right.
you could redeem within the week. It almost felt like the industry wanted to go that way, like digital only. No, that's what it wanted to
Oh,
do.
I think so. I think it did. And I think it is more convenient for me personally because I can be at work or on the go and a new comic came out. I want to download it right now, read it on my break, or read it,
Yeah, yeah.
wherever. And for content, it is so exciting that I can literally screenshot the actual panels, like to show the fans like certain sections of the story I'm interested in. And I see more people streaming in. I'm going to tell you guys what I said at the beginning as well. My mic broke last week and it sounded terrible, and none of you guys told me, so I'm offended. So if I sound bad this week or echoey, let me know. I can fix it. Because I don't know what I sound like, which is kind of
Expect on high to get super triggered in this session, guys. Just deal with him.
hey. So here's what happened. Okay, so I'm rewatching. So I go to our stream last night because I like to double check to make sure like how did things look on the screen,
Hmm.
and I'm like, why do I sound like I'm on speakerphone? And I realized it had switched off my mic and gone to my webcam internal mic, which means I'm kind of far away from it, so it sounded super echoey.
Right.
So anyway, it was quite the experience.
I
And
don't know
I
why. For me, it sounded right. Maybe it's the
I'll tell you
headphones that
why.
make a difference.
Zoom picked up this mic. The streaming software picked up the other mic. So that's the
Uh,
thing. I would have thought the same thing.
okay.
So enough with the technical conversation. there is a lot to talk about today. The big one, as you can tell by the background, it's Book of Boba Fett, and it was something that I think a lot of us knew was coming soon, given the timing of the show. But it did catch me off guard a little bit. Now I saw some Twitter accounts tweeting they expected it to launch, so I knew it was coming on Monday. But before that was announced, I really didn't have much of a heads up. So I want to go through the trailer. You know, we both have videos kind of highlighting our experience with it and that. But we've had a couple days to reflect. I think it might be smart and fun to kind of go through it again as we move over to the view. And there's a lot more announcements we're expecting next week. We'll talk about that as item number 2. But before we get into it and we walk through the footage together, maybe talk about certain key areas, let me get your holistic view. If someone hasn't watched your video yet, what was your biggest take of the trailer? What did you think?
My holistic view. It's something that you also said in your video. It's something that's different. Actually, you know, what didn't completely take me by surprise is that I didn't have any expectation, right?
Okay.
I told you that I like to receive things as they come.
Right.
And I said, if it's different, cool. If it's not, if it's more like Mando, okay, we're working with that, right?
Right.
But I was happy the fact I was like, okay, so it is different. It seems like it's.
It
First of all,
does.
I think we're gonna get deeper into it. Just roll it. I
Yeah.
don't want to cover the whole.
No, it's fine. I will tell you the thing I really enjoyed about the most, and it's funny to say, but it's short.
Yeah.
It doesn't spoil anything. And I love a good trailer. Even if they spoil me a little bit, I'm a sucker for a trailer. Like, I was watching the new Batman trailer that released this month, you know, in October on repeat, like every day. I love a good trailer. So don't get me wrong. But with this, what got me really excited is I bet you 90% of the footage from this trailer is like the first episode. Because when you watch it, it doesn't look like there's that many different things going on. It really seems like it's kind of the first intro episode, which is great because there's only going to be 9 episodes. And if they start revealing, you know, you could spoil major plot points, right? So anyway, we'll start playing in the background. We're going to keep it on mute because we've seen it. Now, let's talk about the spider. First of all, I made a comment in my video. I'm curious your thoughts. I thought this was the worst piece of CGI or effects in the video. For some reason, this to me looked worse because I think the costumes we'll see in a second, character design is phenomenal. The Ithorian, the Twi'leks look, the Trandosians look elite. Like, oh my gosh, this thing to me looked weird. Is that just me?
Can I get a little triggered here?
Yeah, you can for sure.
I'm appalled at your reaction to this trailer. I am personally offended, and I don't think we should collaborate anymore from this point forward, okay? Because I am personally triggered. I could not believe how many fans did not catch the fact that is this spider is from the Return of the Jedi. And he freaking moves exactly like the goddamn puppet. How did you not catch?
So
You're supposed to be a fan, okay?
So I did catch my mistake after I uploaded the video of like, oh my gosh, that's in it when Luke is coming into Jabba's palace, Return of the Jedi. You see that thing in the background. Like it didn't click with me. Number one. Number two, the puppet movement's a fair point, right? It's an homage to a character past.
Puppet movements.
It's a very fair point.
Stupid. Let's go to the source for a second, right? The original puppet is like it was there just for a couple of frames, and it moves like even as a kid you're watching. That's bullshit spider. Like it's not a real spider. It's like that's what they're doing here.
So now you know I'm always willing to be honest where my knowledge is lacking. These are, I know there's some kind of monk who would put their brain in this mechanical spider after they died, right? I think they had some sort of, I don't know, pursuit of, the group was obsessed with knowledge, longevity, or whatever. Educate me. Do you know anything about this group prior to, you know, doing research when the trailer came out? Did you know anything about?
I am sorry, I was just responding on in our chat. Repeat the question.
That's okay. No, so with the monk, right? Whatever the species is, how much did you know about them before the trailer dropped? How much research had you ever done? Just curious. I'm just curious.
I just you know, my recollection from watching episode 6 25 million times. We're like, oh, that's the spider from Jabba's palace. He moves the same. He has the same little aquarium, little
braid
or whatever.
It's a brain, yeah.
That's my research.
And that's the thing. Like, I saw some videos after the fact recommended to me of like, what are they called? Bomar monks, something like that, where it was, I think it was a race who was like obsessed with, I think it was knowledge or technology. And so they would put their brains inside a mechanical spider to like live out their days, which is super creepy. But kind of cool. It's cool. And it is cool, to your point, for an OG fan like yourself to see these characters brought back.
Yeah.
Now, let's keep rolling. A cool little homage right off the top. We get the shot of Jabba's palace. And then we get, I think, our first real indication of something about the show.
Yeah.
So the re-armored Boba Fett that appeared in The Mandalorian Season 2 was cleaner than this armor. This armor is dirtier. You can see a little more chipping. It's definitely brushed up. The color is definitely more vibrant. But there was like almost a matte quality to the re-armored Boba Fett, if you know what I'm talking about. And I might have a picture real quick I can pull up as we're talking. I don't think all the fans really loved that. I think they wanted a little bit more of a worn look. I was in the minority. I thought the re-armored Boba Fett looked dope on in The Mandalorian Season 2. But this one to me seems like, okay, one of two things has happened. They've updated the design for the new show, or it's supposed to imply he's been in some action since we last saw him. What are your takes on the suit?
The moment I saw all those, scrapes and chips in the paint job, I thought, hold on, so chronologically this could happen before The Mandalorian, right? Because the way that he's presented in Mando, it doesn't look like he just crawled out of Sarlacc's pit and he's just healing, right? Because I'm sure we're going to touch upon this later. His skin texture, right, in between the Mandalorian and here he looks more healthy.
He does.
An argument could be made that he looks younger. Plus, when we look here, it's just a flipped image, right? But that dent is on the same side.
It's a flipped image,
helmet,
yes.
Right? Yeah, it could be either or. Once again, I don't like to think too much into it. I looked at it and my first impression was, hey, maybe it's before. He looks younger here.
Possible. I think, and you can see this was a lot more matte. You can see there's scrapes here that are just totally gone. I think they took some fan feedback and were like, okay, they want a little bit more worn of a look. I actually really liked the re-armored Boba Fett, but that's just me. And as we keep moving on, I think to your point, if we take a little bit of a half step back, we're looking clean. We have eyebrows. We have a lot less scarring. A lot of people have hypothesized, and again, you and I aren't big theory kind of people just because I don't think that's how we work. This looks like maybe some sort of bacta tank that he could have been, resting in. You see some dials over here. So I've heard some people say that. Very likely. He looks good, though. I think he looks really...
excellent.
It's so cool to see returning prequel era characters galore. Hayden Christensen, Morrison, obviously. We have Ewan McGregor. I mean, we're getting so many like prequel era actors.
And I'm up for it, man.
It's dope. It's awesome.
It's bridging the gap, even not only between the prequel movies, but also the Clone Wars show. I don't know if you've seen the picture where somebody compares Tamara Morrison in the sitting position in outfit to the CGI cartoon version of Rex, right?
Yeah.
And oh my God, they look so close to one another. Now you have the chance to take the animation part of the universe and put it into live action. That is so exciting.
It is exciting, and I am of the opinion that just from the trailer, my first gut instinct watching, I haven't done deep dive research. I noticed he looked healthier. I noticed he had eyebrows. I noticed less scarring. My guess he's been going through some rehab to prep for his conquest or whatever. And I think he looks really good. I'm very excited. I think he looks like Boba Fett. You know what I mean? He looks like obviously Jango Fett, who we've seen before, but it looks like he aged appropriately in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? He looks more weathered and it's just very cool to see to me. It's very cool from a prequel eras fan, especially. And as I've told the channel and yourself, someone who, when you're young and you watch Star Wars, what looks cool, that's what you like. You don't know much more.
And I want to add to this particular look as well, just so fans could anticipate and get their juices flowing, get excited. So we do know that in the Legends part of Boba Fett's survival arc, partially because he starts looking younger, healthier, is that he goes back and he contacts the Kaminoan cloners. And he recruits their help, and he said, I need patch here, I need a new organ there. I'm curious how much they're going to tie it into this new show, but that's one possible answer they're going to offer, that, hey, this is this was true in Legends. We're gonna carry it over in canon. He's going back to his Kaminoan roots.
That is an awesome idea that I didn't even think about. I love that idea. And I saw in chat, it looks like Millie called out, they were worried about how Ahsoka was going to be treated in live action. So far, so good, right? I mean, that was a really pleasant surprise as well. And as we've know from announcements recently, we're going to get some interactions between Hayden Christensen and Rosario Dawson. So it's just really exciting for prequel era fans like myself.
Yeah.
And again, even though Boba Fett is not a prequel era character, this actor is a prequel era character, playing Django and the clones. You know what I mean? I meant, yeah. But we connect immediately because the actor's the same. You know what I mean? It's like it's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Porter Morrison made
I know
Boba and Django Fett. He's a man.
Minor detail. I adore this. I adore the weathered armor.
Yeah, you were like nerding out in your video, like, oh my god, look at this.
It is logo. So. I love when companies do that kind of twist with their branding. Like, so DC has their iconic and their kind of newer DC logo with the D and the C lined up. And what they'll do is they'll like make it match the character's aesthetic. And I really like when companies do that. I think that's fun.
Yeah.
I don't. Have they ever done this before? I'm trying to remember if I've seen them do, and it's not a huge deal, but to me it was just really cool. I really liked it. I thought it was fun. Little details. And we have what I'm going to assume is pretty early on in the show taking place because they seem to get cornered again. Like I said earlier, this whole trailer seems to take place in like one episode. Okay, we see like 4 different shots of this scene where the guards and shields come up. And so that's why I think it's really small in scope, what we've seen in the trailer. We have Fennec Shand, who I think is going to be, I'm making a very educated guess, is going to be a massive part of the show. They seem to be really trying to build that relationship up. They're establishing Fennec Shand in The Bad Batch. What I really liked about The Bad Batch is they used this actress, whose name I'm totally blanking on, they used her to voice the character. So she has that consistent voice throughout her appearances in The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, and Bad Batch. Kind of a cool new character they're trying to integrate in. I think she's going to be a massive part of the character.
Yeah.
We see, it looks like the townsfolk.
I'm just reminding ourselves tonight.
Nope, that's good. Mm-hmm. We can see walking, it looks like through, I don't know, the town square, right? Which we'll talk a little bit about the town later. You know, some people are looking at him kind of funky, like, what the heck's going on? So I don't know, if there's conflict about to go down or Boba Fett has a reputation in this area, remains to be seen. Just some subtle details there. Now let's just talk about this Ithorian. It looks great in the trailer. I mean, it really looked great. I can't even tell, and I'm not an expert. I couldn't even fully tell if it was full CGI or practical or a combination. My first guess was it was practical with a little CGI to smooth out the edges.
CG. Like
I agree.
It has that signature, almost like intentionally stiff-like quality about it. Remember, if we go back to the original Cantina scene and you see the Ithorian there, they are supposed to be like that, right? Like they're very static and they just like kind of move like this. They're not, the facial part is not very animated. So
true. It
looks prosthetic to me.
I totally agree. The fact that I can't really tell, I think, is a good thing. You can tell the Twi'lek is they've done a lot with Twi'leks being mainly practical effects in what we've seen. We see a lot of, I'm trying to think of all the Twi'leks we've seen. In The Mandalorian, there was the female Twi'lek. I'm just trying to think of newer Twi'leks. Seems to be predominantly practical effects. It can be hard, I think, to duplicate the head shape correctly, but I think in this trailer especially we'll see some great examples later. This is a really cool aesthetic here. This Ithorian is talking to Boba Fett, and I'm not going to speculate too much on the context here. I'm just going to talk about, I really love the visuals. I love the effects so far. It looks really good.
And the visuals are also very intentionally bringing us back to that original trilogy era, not only with the aliens, but like the general look of things.
Agreed.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Agreed. It feels very much like Return of the Jedi, which makes sense. Okay. What is this city? What do you think? What do you think this is?
I would be very pleased and at the same time very shocked if this still is on Tatooine, because the vision of Tatooine that we got, and obviously when you watch these movies you realize, okay, when they say a planet like Tatooine, we saw like 2-3 locales on that planet. We're talking about a whole planet with a whole culture, no matter how bad, even the way that Luke describes it. Like, if you can imagine a rock from the farthest place from the center of the galaxy, that's probably Tatooine. If this is indeed Tatooine, I don't think it's Anchorhead. I think Anchorhead, the way it's even talked about in the original Star Wars radio drama, it's a lot smaller. It's like almost village-sized town.
I think, yeah, I think it's on Tatooine, like you. I think it's a new city we've never seen. Maybe we've had it referenced, and I'm struggling. I know Star Wars Complete put a video of what city he thought it was earlier, and I'm not expert enough to know one way or the other. But either way, it's cool. We're getting something new, and that's fun. New but familiar, like we kind of just talked about. It does evoke that return of the Jedi aesthetic. This feels very Star Wars. If you were to give me this snapshot, I'd be like, oh, this 100% fits in Star Wars to me. So, and
definitely not Ord Mantell that we saw in the Bad Batch, because it wasn't surrounded by this like mountains, canyon-like mountains. Yeah.
Totally agree. And you notice how the city sprawls to the top of the canyon as well. It's not just in the canyon, so it's quite large.
Which also, that tower speaks to some kind of hierarchy, right? Somebody's there as power.
Looks really cool. I'm very excited about this. I'm very excited. We get the throne, the kind of, iconic shot they keep showing. Again, so I'm going to make an assumption here. Do we notice the pattern on the walls? Looks just like the Ithorians. The Ithorians, when he was sitting on his throne, this was the very pattern you saw behind him, right? I'm assuming this is all from the first episode. I really am. You'll see this pattern. I guarantee you this is maybe when the first time they enter that palace, they get kind of attacked, or maybe when they leave, things go sour and this happens. But to me, we're having a standoff here that looks like... We got a Gamorrean back here. So, look at a Fennec Shan sniper rifle. Looks good. Again, you could tell they did, to your point, either it's earlier and this is a flashback, or, I don't know if they're going to do time jumps, or they did some wear on the helmets, because the re-armored Boba Fett was almost a different shade of green, which I think what people really didn't like as well. Go ahead.
Actually, I just noticed something in this very shot. He doesn't have that vertical like scar slash across his helmet, even in the same trailer, right? That's new.
Let's see, back at the beginning.
Interesting. I'm just noticing that. Like he
has it right here. He
has it. He does. Okay, my bad. All right.
No, it's okay. He didn't have it back in The Mandalorian, though. I've looked at the armor.
He must be Snoke. I got it. Like when fan theories run wild.
Yeah, we are guilty of that. So we switch right here. This again, I think, is that very scene we saw a second ago, and then the town square. And I love that. I feel like I've only seen like what's going to happen in episode 1. And what strikes me, because we're not listening to the volume as we walk through it, we have Jabba's Palace coming up. Here's what strikes me about the show. I said this in my video, and it still reigns true today. This is not what I expected the show to be based on the dialogue we're hearing. I expected it to be a lot more angry revenge Boba Fett, and it seems a lot more like Kingpin Boba Fett. Like, I'm moving chess pieces, I'm making moves, I'm coming for my throne. But I'm going to do it in a way where my power will last, and I can accumulate allies and grow kind of my presence on Tatooine. I really like that because it's a side of Boba Fett that fits his age, right? It would be a little unrealistic. Well, I mean, it's Star Wars, and Boba Fett's legendary. So when he inevitably does do a lot of amazing action scenes, we'll buy it. But it does fit his maturity. Like, this is what a Boba Fett with these years and years of experience would think to do, right? I mean, that's, to me, was a pleasant surprise, I think.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
You took his statement, like, at face value, or you don't think there's more to it? Because remember how Obi-Wan Kenobi describes Mos Eisley and everybody involved in there, the most wretched, hive of scum and villainy. And that's who Boba Fett is. He's scum and villainy, right?
Well, absolutely. When he says respect in the trailer, I think what you're referring to, like, I'm going to rule with respect. I assume it's respect by, like, gangster terms, right? Like, right, not by, like, law, right? Yeah, like exactly. Yeah. Right. Not like you and I would say respect. Like how someone who's literally grown up in the criminal underworld would view respect. Like, there's a code of conduct. I think the Godfather is the perfect analogy. Like, there are rules here you don't break, which I think is a really cool idea. Speaking of John Wick, what it kind of reminds me of almost, I assume everyone here has seen John Wick or has heard of it. there's this place in the John Wick universe called the Continental, which is like
Mm-hmm.
a hotel where hitmen go, and there are rules, right? And that's
Right.
what it kind of reminds me of. Like, there are rules. There's like, these guys are cold-blooded killers, but there are, there's etiquette to being in the underworld. And I
That's
think
not
that,
how I heard it, man. I heard it completely different.
okay,
I mean, to me, especially like how the trailer ends when he says, "Please speak freely." Like,
yeah,
there's so much sarcasm in each line. He's like, "Yeah, I will be very honorable when I like chop your head off." Like, he's almost letting you know that one of the intimidation tactics is you say one thing in front of the enemy, and then when you do exactly the opposite, you know that you're not reliable. You're a source of danger.
yeah.
That's when people start really respecting
I
you.
mean, I think he's going to do his own. I don't think he's going to be moral or good in that sense. I think
Yeah.
he's maybe not going to go about it as like guns blazing. Maybe is the right word. Okay, more, I think, really solid effects. So we see our what appears to be Trandosians, and I will be honest, I'm not sure what this race is. We get a zoom in of them shortly. Trandosians, obviously. I think we get one. I don't know what this race is supposed to be. If you know, feel
They
free to
are
speak up.
familiar for sure. I couldn't place where I've seen them, but they definitely look familiar.
Trandosians, it looks like, this is part of his, I guess, early pitch. I could see him killing some people in this room at some point.
They can't be
Some
Fallen.
guards.
Remember, one of the biggest crime syndicates was Prince Tezor, right, from the Legend series, and he was part of this Fallen, which they also brought them back. I think, either is it Rebels show? Hold on a second, I'll tell you in a second.
Okay, that's fine. As you're pulling that up, I will say I love the aesthetics of this shot. Boba at the head of the table, got his helmet next to him, which I just think is really a cool touch. Like, he's armored up. It's dinner time, but we're not lounging. He's not
the
in.
Godfather.
He's not in a toga. He's got the helmet right there. I'm at the head of the table. Guards behind me. I also the idea that the guards like whoever sits on the throne, they just follow. They weren't like Jabba loyalists or anything. They were just kind of like, okay, we follow who's at the throne, which I think is kind of a cool touch.
All right, so Clone Wars did feature them in 3 episodes: Imminence, Shades of Reason, The Lawless, but they do look distinctly, kind of, sort of familiar, but not really. They're like basically very, very humanoid with green skin, and for some reason, the ones that were portrayed in the show also featured this kind of like a top ponytail, sort of like Prince Caesar.
We get a closer view in a second too. We'll pull up on. But it seems like, again, I firmly believe this is all like in the first episode. I really do. I believe they're basically teasing you with the first episode. I really do. This is a great shot, by the way. I really like this shot. Jabba's palace. I like this. I know we're definitely going to get, well, I shouldn't say I know, but I highly, highly expect more Fennec Shand backstory and more Boba Fett backstory as well, for where they were. And I'll give you a place where I think we're going to get a backstory scene from the trailer.
Go for it.
Right here. I think this is when the Tusken Raiders get Jabba, find him out of the Sarlacc pit. That's my prediction.
They find him.
That's my prediction. Or he's crawling around. I think they encounter one another after he escapes the Sarlacc pit. That's my guess of this scene, based on nothing. But I think I think they are going to explain or allude to how he escaped and what he's been up to. Right? That's just my guess. So
when I saw this shot, I honestly kind of like got a little bit nerdy as a fan, and once again, I'm gonna go back to Legends. There is this amazing Jedi, right, who joins the ranks of Tuskens, Asharad Het, this is during the Clone Times era.
yeah,
He's the one that is exiled from the Jedi Temple. During the Clone Wars, he does something unthinkable, and they exile him, and he goes to the Tatooine, and he becomes a member of them. I think this Boba Fett book is another beautiful, beautiful opportunity to bridge the gap between Clone era and the original trilogy, and bring this one Jedi that, A, he will be able to expand the Tusken culture in a way we have never seen before, and B, he would be a very interesting bridge between the Ahsoka show and between this show, telling us that both prequel era and the original era is not that long ago. They all exist within the span of the same 20 years.
It is crazy to think about. I think we forget that as fans. One thing I'll call out from the shot: does this weapon look familiar to you? This Tusken Raider's holding.
I think so.
Looks like a weapon that Boba was rocking in The Mandalorian. So that's kind of where the assumption comes from. Maybe that's where he got it. Yeah. Maybe that's where he got it from, or whatever. I think this could be a flashback. So not much more context there, just an assumption. We see Fennec pull what looks like a knife out of the butt of her gun. Oops.
Doing ninja stuff.
Which is cool. Really cool. This, I believe, again, is from that opening scene with them through the town square. I believe that's where this is coming from. I really think this is, and this is a good thing. I'm complimenting them. I think it's a very isolated look at the show. It's a real teaser. Like, here's kind of the tone. Here's what's going on. We know you're going to tune in on December 27th. Come on. You and I talked about this last week with the Anakin Skywalker news. One of the big things I said was, I love the hype announcement as much as the next person, but it is cool to get surprised. Luke, Mandalorian season 2, whether good, whether you loved it or hated it, it was a surprise to say the least. And so it can be hard for companies now to not want to show you so much about the trailer about their movie in the trailer. And I think this is a good teaser. This is a good teaser. I don't feel like I have anything really spoiled for me yet. So
show me just enough to get excited about. Show me just enough to communicate that the show has its own style. That's it. I don't want to see anything else.
Yeah, I totally agree. And again, I love a good trailer. I'm a sucker for them. I'm not going to pretend. The new Batman trailer is a great example. Yeah. The new Batman trailer did show me more, and I think I've started to piece together the general gist of the plot more so than the first trailer. So that's kind of a good thing and a bad thing. If you can execute, then, but I like this kind of trailer as well. Okay, some more, I think, really solid effects here. This is some good looking Twi'leks. You know what I mean? Like this to me, I mean, it is a really effective way to bring an extraordinary kind of out of this world character, and it's in a scene and it looks real. This is about as good as I think you're gonna. I mean, it's as good as we've ever gotten, right? I don't know. How do you feel?
Cosplay. Yeah, they don't look like they're like cosplay at Star Wars Celebration. Celebration. They look like they're going to show us the side of Tatooine and show us more of that. So for me as a kid who grew up with the originals and I was watching the prequels, it visually, aesthetically was also trying to separate itself and say, this is the aesthetic of these films. And I always wanted more of that particular look from the tangible feel, whether it's like the cinematography, the camera shots. We got a glimpse of it in Rogue One, I feel, especially when you see the Rebel base on Yavin 4. But also here, when you see alien creatures like this, I don't believe it's done there just for like cameos. Like, oh, look, Twi'leks. They're trying to settle it in that same style, in that same look, the way that OT looked.
That kind of grit almost that they have of the original trilogy. One thing I'll call out, I'm assuming you'll notice on both the Twi'leks, some really creative use of headdress. I imagine this allows them to do a lot of structural work and a lot of seams hidden. That's why you see very similar, even though this is a lot more ornate, this one is a lot more, what looks to be like just some sort of leather. You can see how they've kind of craftily placed them around to probably hide some of the work. So anyway.
When you see tiaras every time, it reminds you of that pulp era princesses in distress on the covers of these sci-fi like magazine and adventure stories. It's so retro. I love it, man.
Yeah, it looks good. I like the Twi'leks here. They look good. Yeah. Looks very cool. And you're right. Okay. All right. Only thing we're going to talk about this topic
Boba Fett
today.
Ship, right?
Boba Fett Starship. So what we saw this week, they started releasing official merch for Book of Boba Fett. And they have a couple shirts with Boba Fett Starship where it says Fire Spray, which is, I believe, the class of ship to this point. It seems to be that's the naming convention that they're going to start using, at least and we'll see in the show. I could literally see them in the show.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I keep interrupting.
No, it's okay.
I'm just so excited like you are about the show. I could care less what they call Boba Fett's ship. I honestly didn't know and didn't care before like somebody mentioned it to me. I think Fire Spray is a far more badass name than Slave One is. Get triggered. Come at me, bro. I'll see you on my YouTube video in the next one. But I think it just sounds raw. Fire Spray sounds just like so Star Warsy, so in space. I'm for it, man.
I could definitely see the show changing the name from Slave One to something else. Like with Boba Fett, you know, changing his reputation. He's like, Slave One no more. Now it's, you know, Boba Fett's Revenge. No, I'm just kidding. You know, but whatever they want to call the ship, I'm sure it will be a topic of much controversy that we will deal with throughout the release. Back to this meal. Here's that race we talked about again. I think some really good effects.
Yeah.
To me, it looks really solid.
Oh my god, this drives me insane. What are these like alien species? Can somebody like in the chat who knows? I've seen them before. I know that. Maybe even the Return of the Jedi.
Did Sean say it earlier in chat? I can't remember.
Because they have these like dog-like snouts.
They do.
Right?
They have very dog-like snouts. Yes.
That looks so familiar.
Yeah, Sean, I think just put it.
Clatonians.
Clatonians.
That sounds very familiar. Hold on, I'm reading it.
Well, we got the power of the internet here. Clatonians.
I knew I saw them before. Oh, okay. Return of the Jedi. There you go. Jabba's palace. That's fine.
Come on, man. How would you not know that? Good work, Sean. No, I'm just kidding. I like to make fun of you. Good work, Sean. Thanks for calling it out. We are obviously not real fans.
Yeah.
But it looks really good. Hey, effects look really good, I will say, regardless. I mean, the Trandosians here as well. Looking really good. Really, really pleased with the effects. So let's go back to the shot real quick. We won't spend a lot of time. This just shows a little bit more of the healing. We see less of the scarring. We see full eyebrows. It looks like we've had some healing going on here. So just call that out. I think he's going to get some Star Wars steroids going on to get himself back in the game. We get the helmet with the money in it. This is back from that opening scene we talked about when they're in the town square. Why was he carrying money in his helmet? I don't know what was going on there, but it looks like they're under attack from some sort of guard. I'm going to make an assumption this is like that Ithorian that we see early. Mm-hmm. I think this might be like his, maybe like he runs this new city, the big city. Like it's his area, and I don't know. We'll see.
The first power clash.
Yeah. That's what it seems like to me. We see some, look at these crazy eyes here. Wait a second. We got to take a step back. Look at these eyes. This is some, look at that.
These are like Samoan battle eyes. The only
thing
is missing, like when they stick out the tongue to scare the enemy, right? Yeah. I love that.
He looks absolutely like, it cracks me up. It looks really good. It stuck out to me when I watched the trailer live too. I was like, oh my goodness. And there's another.
Somewhere looks awesome.
He does. Trailer. It's so cool to see him return. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to like capture the exact. Oh, I missed it. This is the last line of the trailer where he makes the comment, please speak freely or whatever.
Yeah. So like, what would you do? Would feed you to his menagerie, right?
Yeah.
I thought it was funny.
And this, to me, I'm gonna guess happens before their meal. You see a lot of the same aliens from the meal. So it's either happened before or after. It could have been after, like after he wines them and dimes them, he then like lays the law down. I don't know. We shall see.
A little movement that he makes, he sort of looks like he reclines back into his chair.
Yeah.
I almost felt like he killed one of them, right? Made a very intimidating move, and then he's sitting back, like, yeah, please speak freely. We're all friends here. When they're already shook and they know who is the master of the situation.
One thing I'll call out. December 29th, everyone's going to be watching this. We're all very excited. I like the yellow in the logo. It's such a little thing to talk about, but in the original logo, they just had a white Star Wars. I think it's really cool with the yellow Star Wars. So,
retro.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Big fan. I think a really solid teaser. I'm expecting we'll get at least one more trailer before the launch of the show. And I have a pretty good feeling we're going to get even more teasers next week. That's a topic that we're about to dive into. But those are our thoughts on Book of Boba Fett trailer. We both have some videos out there if you want to see us, really kind of give our initial thoughts. Overall, really good teaser. Excited to see what comes next.
Yeah, that was pretty dope.
Speaking of next, before we hop into more show-related content, I do want to talk about some book-related content let's take a break from the hype trailers and let's look at some new Legends essentials. Okay.
Oh yeah.
You and I have been big fans of this idea, this initiative. I think you might own all of them at this point. I own the first in the Darth Bane.
Mm-hmm.
I own Heir to the Empire. I have not purchased any others yet. I've been waiting. I want to go get them in person. I want to go out to the bookstore and get them because I got them online. We talked about this. The covers were kind of trashed. So I'd like to actually go like to a Barnes and Nobles or to a Target and pick them up. I just haven't got around to it recently.
So
We're
I
getting
did that today.
Yeah, go ahead.
I did that today. I went to Barnes and Nobles, and guess what? All of the books that are from the Wave 2, they still have that little defect where like the cover doesn't quite cover the pages. I'm like, I'd rather wait. I'll wait for a second or third print or something.
That's crazy to me.
I want them so badly, man.
I love that they're doing this for a lot of reasons. One I've talked about on my channel and on the stream with you, it's kind of reintroducing these books to newer fans or younger fans or fans who haven't read Legends before, like myself. It's a really cool way to get people excited about it again. Of all the new covers, to me, the one I like the most... Actually, I like a lot of these covers, to be honest. This is a really good batch. We'll go one by one. Mm-hmm. Kenobi. I really like the style. I really like the very painted look to it. I think it really fits Obi-Wan as the character. You know what I mean? It like really fits the character. When you look at that cover, to me, it reigns true. It has a very Ewan McGregor look to it, obviously.
I wish it was composed a little better. I really enjoyed the paint job.
Yeah.
I'm surmising it's digital painting. Regardless, It looks very sharp. I like the pose. I like the coloration. But in terms of composition, it's a little boring for me. I don't like... And we're going to go to the next one, which I have quite a few things to say. But in the instance of Kenobi, it's not... I don't mind that it's not busy. It's just compositionally, it doesn't tell a story. It's just him... and that's it. It looks a little on the boring side to me.
It's like a portrait, kind of.
Yeah.
You know,
like an RPG game portrait. You're right.
Yeah, and Obi-Wan, let's be honest, he's a boring character. No, I'm just kidding. No, I think you're right with the style. I think or the painting, digital painting look. I think is really well executed. Yeah. Nothing really crazy though. I'm with you. Of all the ones we've seen, it's kind of the safest, maybe is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
The next one is, and I'll be curious to hear what you have to say, because this is my favorite of the group. I really like the Darth Plagueis cover for a couple reasons. One, I think it's familiar and fresh at the same time, because we see that Palpatine look we know with a little bit of a younger spin to it. And kind of, Darth Plagueis with the design that's now become pretty standard, even canonized. We see the hood with the yellow eyes peeking through, where you never feel like you get quite a clean look at him. But it feels very Sith to me. Like the red, the sitting on the throne with someone, it just feels very Sith to me. And I really like the black and gold aesthetic throughout. I don't know. What are your thoughts on the Darth Plagueis covers?
I would say it's probably the most successful cover they've done so far in Legends. I like it for a number of reasons. First, I really love, first of all, black and yellow. It's a beautiful combination. It's very resonant. It throws the book cover right in your eyes. Plus, they have the red. So they have these all primary colors that really jive together really well. But compositionally, it also makes very good sense, because if this is a central theme in Star Wars, right? The grand villain, behind him is the grand shadow of the villain, and then it's accentuated by these two lines, which almost looks like it's a hood cover.
It does, yep.
But not quite, because it's graphically presented. And the painting style itself, once again, it's very, very retro, very pulpy. So they're tackling so many things, like the artist's conscious decisions in this cover are top-notch. They come through, they resonate immediately.
I'll say in chat, I saw Steve in the chat, and I think it was Sean. Really love the Darth Plagueis one, which I think for me, when are we gonna get like a Darth Plagueis canon story at some point? You know what I mean? Like we know he's canon, obviously, right? We've known it for a long time. This story is not considered canon, but I feel like it is. Most fans do kind of consider it canon. You know what I mean? I don't think nothing about the story I think is really disruptive to the flow of the greater Star Wars universe. So it's always been kind of there. I'm just curious if I could see Disney. It's far-fetched, but I could see Disney going for almost like a Palpatine prequel show, almost. Like maybe his rise through political power. I could almost see them doing that to tell the story of Darth Plagueis. I don't think it's likely. I think it'd be really cool. It could fit, a really kind of niche audience. You can make it a little more a political thriller with a Sith kind of twist to it. To me, that is something that would be really fresh and new. Maybe we'll see something like that in The Acolyte, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But I am waiting for like the official Darth Plagueis story, right? Because right now this is really all we have.
I think it's inevitable. The prequels are very much in the consciousness of millions of Star Wars fans, right?
Yeah.
And I do apologize, guys, a little bit if you hear some background noise. It's, he is not fully a canon, but he is canon because he's mentioned in the prequels, and whatever George Lucas has told us about from his movies is legit canon. So just expect to see more. I would not be surprised if Acolyte starts somewhere, because they said it's somewhere at the end of the High Republic era, and I think it's gonna show us the full corruption of the Jedi Order and how Palpatine's master comes into power, and where basically Plagueis rips the power from him.
I think we definitely, you're right. The Acolyte is such a natural home for it. He is canon. It's like Darth Bane, right? He is canon as well, which we'll talk about in a second. He looks vastly different in canon than he does in the representations we see here. We'll move on to the next one, which I'm curious to get your thoughts on. So this is Wedge's Gamble, the sequel to Rogue Squadron, and I think they will look good next to each other on the shelf. You know what I mean? I think they will contrast each other with the blue and the red, and they both have kind of that unique, I don't know the word I'm looking for. Retro might not be the maybe classic look to them. I think they'll look very good next to each other on the screen. I'm not someone who's read the Rogue Squadron series. As I've even admitted, it's not typically the Starship pilot side of Star Wars never interested me as much. And we're obviously getting a Rogue Squadron movie. But for the fans who are really passionate about these stories, I know they really like this series. And I think I think it'll look good. I mean, imagine the two next to each other. I think it'll look really good.
Yeah. I really love it. They're still pursuing the same stylistic choice within a trilogy or a series, which I'm assuming this is what the X-Wing series is going to look like. It is very, very early 90s sci-fi book covers, which something that I grew up with. Even in Russia, the sci-fi books that I used to pick up as a kid, they had these very stylized graphics almost look to it. And guys, I got to tell you, it's, for some odd, strange reason, I can't explain just the way that art triggers certain, like neurons in your brain. But I'm looking at this cover, and it's oddly descriptive of the texture or feel or like the environment in these X-Wing books. And for those of you who are looking at this stuff for the first time and thinking, gee, all these Legends books are coming out, where's a good place to start? The X-Wing series. This book and the one before it, don't sleep on it, guys. These are some of the greatest Star Wars books ever written, and I'll go beyond that. You may consider that Star Wars literature is only as far as literature as tie in to a popular, movie franchise is, and say, well, they're fun, I enjoy them, but so what, And then I need to go to my hardcore science fiction. When you consider Michael Stackpole's writing, and he wrote most of these X-Wing series, he started them, his stuff, his science fiction, the way that he writes military sci-fi is what Tom Clancy's novels are to military science fiction. I mean, he's that deep. The way he describes his characters and their relationships, the way that he takes these ex-pilots and puts them out of their ships and develops them as human beings, and then when you get to the space battles, makes it so much more exciting. This is an ideal place to start, guys. I'll be in like a pitch for these books every day, all day, man. Fantastic.
Yeah, a couple thoughts I'll send your way. The first one was, I see Seamus in the comic says, I prefer the Wraith Squadron books, the Rogue Squadron. I don't know if you've read the Wraith Squadron series. I have not.
Yet. No, so, I have them. I purchased. I collect all of the Star Wars books, but I didn't get around them yet.
Let me ask you in the same vein, the Alphabet Squadron, kind of the more recent Squadron series. I have not read those books yet, but I've heard good things. Have you had a chance to dive into those yet?
I'm sorry, those are the ones that I'm talking about.
Okay,
Yeah, the
yeah.
Alphabet Squadron
Yeah.
I haven't read yet. No.
Okay. I would like to get around to it. I just have not had the time. But exciting nonetheless. And finally, we have Dynasty of Evil, which is the third book in the Bane trilogy. So I have the... I appreciate the unique style they're going for in these. Like, they're not my favorite of the covers. Like, I like the Plagueis one better. But I like that they've been consistent through the three. I think they tell kind of... they all fit, and I like the kind of black and white with touches of yellow and red. I think it's kind of a cool style. It feels very unique to me. So I like it. I think they all look good. But they don't like... They're not like, you know, the best things I've ever seen. But I really like that they kind of went for something different, if that makes sense. Yeah. I don't know. How do you feel?
Can you do something for me? A small favor. Can you very quickly Google Metal Gear Solid concept art?
Yes, I can. All right. I misspelled the word art, but that's okay. All right. I assume you're talking
Click on the one
something like this.
Yeah. That's basically it. It's
kind of might do that. Man.
It's a very beautiful sketch art, which like doesn't mean to look finalized, but throw an idea right on the page and give you a certain look for it. And I feel that style is so representative of Bane because he is the formation of the Sith Order as we know it, right? The rule of two that he creates. It makes so much sense to create artwork which is like formative, right? It's like it's still halfway done. You kind of get the gist of what's happening. Obviously, in the second book, he has. I'm not going to spoil much, but he has an apprentice, right? And that's what this is, and that's what it reminds me. The legendary concept artist behind the Metal Gear artwork.
That's a good comparison.
Yeah,
fun comparison. Okay, well, those are the new ones we are awaiting. Cool, they keep doing this. It's a good like cross era support for fans. Legends
I have
fans,
a
new
super
fans.
short one also to mention if we are done with
Go
our
ahead,
book
yeah,
segment.
go ahead.
Guys, something that I wanted to add to Josh's program today, you know, he wanted to bring these up. I also wanted to mention this book here, The Odyssey of Star Wars, right? This is a book written in the style of The Odyssey by Jack Mitchell. It is very similar, for those of you who have read the Iliad and the Odyssey, but the Robert Fitzgerald's translations of these books, because obviously Odyssey and the Iliad, they've celebrated works of classical Greek period,
right?
And they have so many Western translators throughout the years, like from 60s to 80s to modern ones, contemporary scholars of this work. So what this guy, Jack Mitchell, did, I just wanted to quickly shut him out. Just like we had the Shakespeare ones, I don't know, have you like messed around with those?
Yeah.
So, you know, how he basically replicates Shakespearean language.
Yeah.
This is exactly what he does in this one.
That's
I
cool.
checked the first chapter of this, and it's so epic in scope, and it brings that mythological quality of Star Wars back into it. I think he runs through the entire original trilogy here.
That's cool.
I highly recommend it to you guys.
That's cool. I know. I remember seeing that come out, and I was like, I don't really know what to expect from that. So it's cool. Yeah, you know, I'll have to wait till you put a review on your channel. I watch it, and decide if I need to pick it up.
Okay, that's fair.
Here's what this is probably your life story, so I'm probably preaching to the choir here.
My life story.
But I'm running out of room to put my books, you know, because I want to display them. You know, I'm gonna have to start expanding. I mean, I have the kind of visual shelf back here that I like to put off the ones that I'm like kind of currently looking at. I mean, I have more like storage that's not as pronounced in the room. So the problem with getting all these Star Wars books, I'm like running out of places to show them off. I'm gonna have to get like a whole new shelf thing going on. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
You have like a little wall unit or something.
Yeah. It's yeah. We got to make it happen. Really cool books on the way, guys. Really excited we keep getting these, and it's cool that we keep getting stuff for Legends fans. You know, it's cool. So let's switch back to the big ticket items. Okay. Next week is Disney Plus Day. It's kind of the first one of these they're doing. I'll make us a little bit bigger here because there's not as much to share outside of our faces. It is going to have announcements and new movies, hitting the streaming service. And we have gotten a lot of rumors throughout the week about what is going to appear Star Wars related. I see this from a lot of different sources, including a source who absolutely called the Boba Fett trailer coming out a day before. So I'm going to take this as very likely info that's going to happen. We're going to get our first teaser for Kenobi, which I think will be very short and sweet. My expectation is we might see like a shot of him and the theme's going to hit, and it's going to go to the title card. That's my guess. An Andor sizzle reel, which, will be kind of cool. I don't really know what to expect from that show, so that'll be kind of fun. Some behind the scenes for Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian. Again, very cool. A teaser for the Bad Batch Season 2, which is nice. I know they've been filming that. We've seen some of the voice actors posting on their Instagrams that they're in the studio, so I would not be surprised if we get a little bit of a tease. And then they say expect new project announcements. So that's exciting as well. So there's some stuff that might not even be on our radar that will appear. I have not decided. I don't know when they announce the time for this, when they're going to actually have their panel. If you and I are free, maybe we'll have to get on the stream on Friday instead of Thursday and just talk about it together live, like we did for the High Republic show when they announced, the Comic-Con stuff. So we'll see. It might be announced at 8 a.m. in the morning, and we don't know. But these are some very cool announcements. What do you think about this list? What are you most excited to see? What is your kind of opinion and pulse on Star Wars on Disney Plus?
I think me and you in our discussions, I keep reiterating the fact that I think the future of Star Wars is on Disney Plus. The serialized, the show format really, really works for Star Wars from many, many perspectives, world building, and so on and so forth. So from this list of announced things, that potential things that we could get, my number one thing is I want the sequel to Rogue One. No, hold on a second. What I really want is I want Obi-Wan Kenobi to blow me away and present to be the clone era the way that I always wanted the prequel movies be, like of that super high quality, right? But it's an unknown factor, right? We don't know how it's going to turn out. Just because, Ewan McGregor is there, just because Hayden Christensen has been, we don't know how it's going to turn out. We're hoping for the best, right? But because the Bad Batch already blew me away from the first season, this is the one that I'm like realistically saying, yeah, this is what I'm most hyped about, because we already dipped into it, right? We know what it's like. This is what I'm personally most excited about, and I honestly want to hear more about Rian Johnson's trilogy. I hope the project has not been canned. I hope they put him in a position to create something similar to High Republic that fans don't have any point of reference, and thus they don't have anything to complain about. They can forgive him for his misstep, as some fans view the Last Jedi, and say, well, let's start from scratch, see what he can do. Because a lot of fans who are critics of the Last Jedi, they say, like, look, we don't think he's a bad person. We don't want to trash him.
Yeah.
We just think that his work doesn't coexist very well with a J.J. Abrams version, which is fine. Okay, it's a fine criticism. What else he can do outside of that, right?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
So I'm on the Rian Johnson thought, to me, I kind of find myself in the camp where I think The Last Jedi was well made. I just didn't really like the story, how it fit. Like you said, it didn't really. The problem with the sequel trilogy to me is all about the planning, right? We don't need to beat a dead horse. I think they just didn't stick to their guns in a lot of ways. I do think he deserves his own trilogy, as I've talked about in the past, because I think Knives Out is really, really good. So I know he can make really good footage, and I feel like, or movies, excuse me. And if you just gave him his own kind of space to work in, his own creative control, I think you're going to get a much better product. Number one. So what are they going to announce? So Disney Plus Day. So you got to think it's stuff that's going to come to the streaming service directly, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm with you. Bad Batch is slept on way too much. It's phenomenal. I think people just didn't realize how good what they got was. Andor has got to do something to get my pulses going, because right now I do not care about Andor. Now, you and I both like Rogue One quite a bit. So
for different reasons.
And I did not expect to like Rogue One when it was announced. I was kind of like, weird. So maybe this will be the exact same situation where I'm like, oh my gosh, they did it again. Like they got me. So I just would like to see something from that show that would get me excited. Right now, I'm not that hyped. There were two rumored. Now, let me tell you what I think the surprise announcements could be, if that's okay.
Go for it.
We know that they are working on The Acolyte, and it was revealed this week that the working title, so if you guys aren't familiar, projects in Hollywood, they get a working title. I'm trying to think of some examples. I think Aquaman, Boba Fett was called something weird. It was called like Raider or something. Just some kind of name that might indicate some of the concept of the show. So the working title for Acolyte is Paradox, which is interesting. I'm very, I'm intrigued by the title. And apparently the series lead is going to be named Aura. So it could be a project name to protect the character identity, but some stuff is starting to leak out. So we might get some actual info about the Acolyte is where I'm going with this. This might be one of the announcements. I might say, hey, the Acolyte is supposed to start filming next year in 2022. So here's the show premise, or here's some actors or actresses who are taking place in it. I'm expecting some of that. It's the first thing I'm expecting, right? And one other thing that started to trickle out as a possible announcement throughout the week. Let me dive into my Twitter likes here. There has been rumors throughout the week that there is an animated Darth Maul focused show that is going to explore his time after the Clone Wars and kind of before we see him again in Solo, or Rebels, where it's like, how did he set up Crimson Dawn? There were a couple sources reporting that, so that could be another animated project on the horizon, which would be kind of fun. I think a lot of fans love Darth Maul. I got Darth Maul up there on my wall.
I follow her. Yeah, she posts a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, so she kind of talked about it, but there were some other announcements as well that Darth Maul show was in the works. So those could be the two special projects. We could see, hey, we're going to do a Darth Maul animated miniseries or whatever, and we're also going to tell you about the Acolyte. That's what I suspect. Which, by the way, to me, are both awesome projects. I love Sith-focused content. I don't think we've had a lot of that on the big screen or the small screen, silver screen. So those to me both sound really exciting. What about you? I don't know. Did those tickle your fancy?
I'm not sure yet. I love Maul, but I think we've seen enough of Maul establishing the Crimson Dawn and his adventures in the Clone Wars, right? So the latter. And between Clone Wars and Rebels, I think we've seen enough of Maul to shelf him for a little while. I think what would excite me more is actually not necessarily the content of the show, but the style of it. Because we already have 3 CGI shows. I want something different, and Visions gave us a glimpse. Dude, I keep going back to those Disney for Kids shorts on a Disney YouTube channel where they show those snippets of classic characters done with traditional American like 2D animation. If they do something like Maul, which I'm not hyper excited about, but in a different anime style, I could say, hold on a second, let me check this out. I'm going to go into it based on the premise that it looks interesting and different, and then dig the story from, reach the show from that avenue.
I saw 2 people, I see both Star Wars Complete and Sean in the comments both kind of called out his relationship with Kiara. I think that is one thing that Star Wars is starting to lean into more is her character in the comics we see with War of the Bounty Hunters. So maybe this is an opportunity for them to give her some animated time, with Maul. Speaking of Visions, because we are coming to the end of the topics I really wanted to discuss today, there was a cool Visions announcement that I think you're going to be excited about. So Star Wars has they've submitted The Village Bride for the Academy Awards for Best Animated Short. As you guys know, I am the Village super fan. I have the score on repeat on Spotify, banging out to that soundtrack. I thought The Village Bride was my favorite of all the Visions, and there are some. That's not a shot at the other projects because Ninth Jedi, The Duel, and The Elder are also like 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 for me. I just loved how effective Village Bride was as a short. Like, I might never see these characters ever again, and I thought it worked really well. So I hope it gets some love at the Academy Awards, even though I don't really care about those kind of shows per se. Yeah. This one did resonate with me, so I hope it gets some love.
Mm-hmm. I'm surprised they picked this episode because it's honestly between the good episodes in the Visions, you can't really pick one which is the best. But I felt out of the ones that you and I enjoyed, which I think you and I were pretty much on the same page.
We were,
right?
yeah.
We enjoyed most of the same ones. This one I really liked, but I would agree with my younger brother who said it kind of ends a little bit abruptly. It gives us enough of a story to care for it, but not enough of a duel to kind of redeem itself as an action, adventure story. If that's what Star Wars is. It kind of ended abruptly because clearly they were given only so much time to work with. I felt that the Ninth Jedi felt more wholesome, more complete from action perspective and from the story perspective. I would have picked that one actually. Like this was a little weird for me, but I can still say like, okay, I could see it.
My guess would be when it comes to the who are you submitting this to, the Academy Awards, right? So they probably care a lot less for maybe some of the execution of action as opposed to maybe some more artistic qualities they found. Disney internally found the Village Bride had. Yeah. If score is one of the considerations for the winner, there's not a better score for that. So that would, because the Academy Awards is not like the fan pleasing awards, right? I mean, how many times does a movie win an Academy Award and we're all like, what the, I haven't, and then we watch the movie and we're like, that movie's terrible. I hate that movie. So they must have felt like holistically the technical aspects would position them well, even though I don't really know. Yeah. Right. I don't know what those are. I'm just guessing. But I love the Village Bride.
I guarantee you the people at the Academy Awards, when they submitted this piece, they will be like, yeah. So tell me, what is anime?
Yeah.
That's going to be them. They're like,
I wonder who's the panel. Yeah. I wonder who's the panel. Well, those are the big stories for me this week. I will go through and call it a couple things I liked as well. They have some cool variant covers coming to the High Republic. They do a bunch of variant covers. This is for issue number 12. I really like the color palette here. We got Avar Kriss blocking some gear. It looks like some debris from falling. Really like this cover. We also have another Trail of Shadows. I keep calling it Trail of Shadows. Trail of Shadows. Another variant cover as well, which has that really, to me, I think this is an instrument being played. I think it's got this jazz vibe because of the piano here as well. So those are kind of fun that stuck out to me this week as we talked about the Village Bride. Also, we have a new Adidas Boba Fett collection coming out. So, your boy is going to be trying to get these secure, the new Boba Fett gear when it drops.
Yeah.
And also, one last thing, we have some 50th anniversary toys coming out. Now, if you might be like, wait, is that? Yes, it is the anime Clone Wars show that was on Cartoon Network. Yeah. And so you'll see you got the ARC Trooper, you got the Grievous, and the Mace Windu. Really cool packaging. I would just love to have these on my shelf. If you're a big fan of that run, like especially the Grievous, I really like the Grievous one with the way they have the helmet.
Well, I was like in animation school, right? School of Visual Arts here in New York City. A lot of like kids were obsessed with him. He was like the hero. Not only, obviously, if you're in a film school, you're studying either film or animation, everybody knows Star Wars.
Yeah.
Everybody talked about Star Wars and Lord of the Rings all day long.
Yeah.
And because Gennady Tarkovsky kind of comes from smaller roots and then like he explodes with his micro series, which for those of you guys who were old enough to remember, it was pretty damn popular. It was like coming out in between the sequel, the prequel trilogy, and fans were digging it. I'll be honest with you, back in the day, I couldn't get into the art style because I wasn't a big Samurai Jack fan.
Yeah, it was very Samurai Jack, yeah.
Right? Right? But then when you get into it, I'm like, hold on a second. This has like some of the best portrayal of like Mace Windu, for example.
Yeah.
Or General Grievous, who's like a total badass in the show.
It had some.
It's understandable with like the hooking up with some action figures now, because in its day, especially the prequel fans and the kids who grew up with those, they were fans, man.
It to me was like Star Wars OP. Like Mace Windu seemed OP. Everyone seemed like over the top powerful. I'm totally blanking. This is making me so sad. I'm totally blanking on the bounty hunter that they brought in for this show, that he's now actually canon, who is like literally goo and tentacles. It's a Z name. I cannot, I think it's a Z name. I can't believe I'm blanking on this. But regardless, I remember when I was younger, I thought he was the coolest. He was like this giant hulking armored character. I mean, the scenes were awesome. So it's really cool that they're doing this for the 50th anniversary. Outside of that, those are, I think, the main things I had to talk about, except for new Funko Pop for the new Boba Fett. So you got to pick up. Okay, last thing before we go, I have to reveal my
Look at him just showing off.
We have next to me on the shelf.
He's showing us his real collection.
I did.
He's a legit fan now. Look at his shelf.
I have, and the lighting's gonna be great. But I did get the Boba Fett. I got the Boba Fett from Mandalorian Season 2. So this is the...
Wait, this is different from what's on
It is. So this is like the damaged version from the Mandalorian Season 2. And this is going to be like the one for Book of Boba Fett. And you can see, I can see pretty clearly because I'm holding the toy in my hand. There was a lot more damage on the, and you can even see in that picture, I'm sure. There was a lot more damage when they first get the armor from Cobb Vanth than what we eventually see now. So anyway, let me take us back to our face view for the folks for sign off. What else did you want to talk about today? What else did you want to let the fans know before we hang up on this Thursday and get ready for what we think will be a big week of announcements next week?
Well, guys, I just, before we started like going live stream, I quickly mentioned to Josh, right, the Star Wars on High. We've been collaborating for quite a bit. We basically became like buddies through the miracle of technology, right? We're talking things, we're connecting on a personal level, obviously coming into it through Star Wars and blah, blah, blah. And I said, as many of you know who watch my channel, like, and I kind of like tried to do a free giveaway of a Star Wars, the Heart of the Jedi book. For those of you guys who know, sorry, it's on this side. That actually, hold on a second, let me bring it in.
And by the way, while he's doing that, you are totally right, Star Wars Complete. It's Dirge. I was thinking Zurg, like from Toy Story, but it is Dirge, and yes, he is canon now, which is dope. But I remember in that show, he was like so cool. So anyway.
So guys, quick, very, very quick story. The Heart of the Jedi, very quickly, came this year, a self-published book by the author Kenneth Flint, who was actually commissioned right by Del Rey and Lucasfilm to write this book, to be one of the earliest expanded universe Star Wars novels in the early 90s, and it never saw the light of day. He self-published in 2015. It's free online. You guys could go all check it out. But because it was available for a very limited release on Amazon, and it sold out quickly, now there's this whole crazy thing going on eBay, right? I'm sure, Josh, you've seen the story.
Yeah.
People are trying to sell it literally for $500-$600, which I think is just these guys. It's such a dishonest thing to do. To first of all, prey on the writer's popularity that he finally got his.
Yeah. Oh. Did we lose timeline? Did I lose timeline? Timeline, we lost you. This is a great. Can someone screenshot the frozen angle we got here? Oh my goodness. Technical difficulties have taken us down, but we were right at the end anyway. So with the show hanging on by a thread, we will call the Zoom call over. Thank you guys for stopping by. We'll be back again very soon.